we do $8,000 the first day. I was like, whoa, it's the most amount of money I've ever made in a day. Actually, that's the most amount of money I've ever made in a month. Day 6 rolls around, we're at 20,000. I'm shitting myself. So today I'm going to share with you the book and the methodology that literally took my business from under $10,000 a month to over $60,000 a month within 30 days, and how you can actually apply this to your consulting business. All right, fair warning, before I tell you this, you should only do this if you have a proven offer and a really strong fulfillment mechanism. The reason is because if you do this without a strong delivery process, you're going to literally break your business with too many sales. So in case you're wondering, this was actually a couple of years ago. This is not the business I currently run. That was a wedding video agency. And it really doesn't matter. The type of business is fully unimportant to this. The principle is the only thing that matters. And this would literally help any business scale. So let's get into the story, shall we? Okay, so what I was doing was I was posting in Facebook groups. So there's a lot of wedding Facebook groups, by the way, if you didn't know that. And I was in about 30 or 50 of them, and I was able to post in each one time per week. So I'm posting around 30 to 50 times a week. The posts were either value-based, lead magnets, or just like direct offers. There's nothing too fancy about what I was actually posting, but this allowed me to generate a little bit of leads, and I was getting somewhere between 5 and 15 calls per month, and that turned into about 1 to 3 sales per month. So I was floating around $2,500 to $7,000 a month, just to give you kind of a range of where I was. Now, the thing is I was spending about 2 to 3 hours a day personally doing this. So this was like copying and pasting in all these different groups, messaging people, setting up calls, stuff like that. Like I was spending about 2 or 3 hours a day on this. So I was basically stagnant around there for months on end, and I was honestly barely making enough money to even stay afloat. I was literally actually living in my parents' basement at the time, and even then I could still barely afford to like reinvest into the business. Also, it's an expensive business to maintain because fulfillment costs, but this was the turning point. My girlfriend at the time, which is now my fiance, told me about a man by the name of Grant Cardone. You may have heard of him. I didn't really know much about him at the time. You may love him, you may hate him. Doesn't really matter either way. So eventually I ended up stumbling upon one of his books called 10X. So the 10X principle is pretty straightforward. If you have a goal, you basically just want to 10X the goal and ask yourself the question of what actions would I have to take in order to achieve that goal. And by doing that, basically you're gonna absolutely demolish your original goal because you need to 10X the amount of actions you would take in order to achieve the goal. My goal at the time was literally just to get to 10K a month. I had never hit $10,000 a month in my entire life. I was literally on a plane listening to this audiobook, taking notes on my phone. And so I had to ask myself the golden question, and this is literally what changed my business. So I asked myself, what would I need to do in order to achieve $100,000 a month? And the thing is, to be honest with you, I could barely fathom $10,000 a month. That to me already seemed like a really challenging goal. So thinking about $100,000 a month, like basically made me want to throw up. It seems so big and so far away that I couldn't even fathom it. Now, if you read the book, it walks you through all this stuff. I do recommend that you read the book because it's really, really solid. So basically I asked myself that question of what would I need to do to hit $100,000 a month in this business? And the answer that came out was, well, join every single wedding Facebook group in the country. So I did. So I joined 660 Facebook groups. And then I hired a VA, which scared the shit out of me because I was like, how am I going to afford to pay this person? It was literally less than $1,000 a month, but I was freaking out about it. But I decided to run this plan. So this is some of the stats, and I'll tell you what happened. So we started posting in every group 1 time per week. So that means we were posting over 600 times per week. You can do the math. So obviously this allowed us to get a ton of leads. I'm talking hundreds per week. And we were able to set up over 50 calls a month from this. And again, remember, I was doing 5 to 15 before. Also, because of this, because of all the volume that I was doing and all the practice I was getting from sales calls, my close rate went from 20% to 35% within that 30-day span. And so the big lesson here on leverage in this is that it went from me working around 2 to 3 hours a day on this process when it comes to posting and setting calls up, to me only doing calls and having my VA do 8 hours a day of posting, messaging people, just being ready to set up calls at any moment. And the best part was she didn't actually speak that good of English. Let's just say I didn't quite understand how the language scale worked. I thought that A was better on the language scale, but it turns out C2, I think, is the most advanced. I didn't exactly know that. But the point is my VA didn't even speak that good of English. So I literally had to make really specific scripts for her to do the appointment setting. So if you had put someone in there who spoke really good English, they probably could have set way more calls. But yet this was the result. So the first month that we started running this system, maybe it was the first half of the month or so, we got one more booking than we did the month before. And I was like, okay, well, that's Cool. I think we hit like, 7.5K that month. I was like, okay, well, that's nice. That's more money than I made the month before. I was like, okay, that's cool. I didn't really realize what was happening, to be completely honest, because the sales cycle in this business, it was a couple weeks. So I was doing all these sales calls, but not seeing a lot happening. Well, then October comes around, and this is when things just got absolutely insane. So day 1 of October rolls around. We do $8,000 the first day. I was like, whoa, it's the most amount of money I've ever made in a day. Actually, that's the most amount of money I've ever made in a month. Day 6 rolls around. We're at 20,000. I'm shitting myself. I've never seen $20,000 in a month before. And we hit it in 6 days of this month. I had no idea how to react. My nervous system literally couldn't handle it. This was insanity to me. On day 20, we hit $40,000. And the ironic part was a few days before October 1st, I actually set a goal. I have it on a notebook. I'm not at home right now, but whenever I do, if I edit this video later, I will show you a picture of this. But I set a goal to make $40,000 extra by the end of the year, and it was October. My goal was to make $13,000 a month for the next 3 months, I think it was, in order to hit my goal of $40,000. We hit it in 20 days. I couldn't believe what was happening. It was blowing my mind. It was just a lot for me at the time. And day 30 rolls around, and we cleared $60,000. We ended up at $60,500. And the month before, we had booked, I think, 3 weddings. And this month we booked 20. So again, just do the math, but like the growth was absolutely insane. You may think $60,000 in a month is a lot. You may not. That's not really the point here. The point's the growth that happened so extremely fast. So what can you actually take from this? What can you actually apply to your own consulting business here? I think that the lesson's pretty simple. You really need to double or triple down on things that are already working. So for example, if you're running Facebook ads, double your spend. If you're getting results and your ads are profitable, double your spend. It's scary, I know, but that's how you grow. If you're doing outbound, 3 times the amount of outbound you're doing. If you're making organic content, go from making 1 YouTube video a month to 4, or go from making 1 reel per week to 5. The lesson here is all about volume. I learned so much from just pumping up the volume from what I was doing. So all of the posts taught me a ton about actually attracting leads, copywriting, what images to pick, the creatives. It taught me a ton about that. All of the appointment setting, doing hundreds of appointment sets over DMs and stuff like that, taught me a ton about how to set appointments. And then sales calls. I literally did thousands of sales calls over like an 18-month span when I scaled this business up. I put so many reps into this, and that is how you actually get good at any of this stuff. You just need reps. So if all else fails, just turn up the volume. Okay, so some actionable steps here for you to take into your consulting business right now. First is you need to clarify your messaging. You got to pick a niche. You got to pick a certain person that you're going to serve. Decide, get clear on that and decide and go all in on that. Once you've done that, multiply your marketing. Double it, triple it, whatever you got to do. Multiply your marketing so that way you can start getting more opportunities to set calls and to get on calls with people and to start learning what it is that people actually need. And so that way you can start running into those objections and learn how to handle them and then start putting them into your content. Little secret there. Next, you need to have a system in place to actually be able to nurture your leads on autopilot. Again, the easiest way to do this is to create content that directly speaks to their pain points. And last but not least is get on the phone. Slam sales calls. Literally have as many conversations as you possibly can. If you're sub $25,000 a month right now, you should be slamming sales calls, learning exactly what people need, learning what problems people are running into, and most importantly, seeing how you can actually help people so that way you can start pushing that into your marketing content. So that's my story. That's the first time I ever actually saw like serious, significant business growth in my life. The ironic part is I never actually made 6 figures for the 7 years previous in my business of trying lots of different businesses. And when I did hit 6 figures, I hit it in 2 months. It was that October and November. So this just goes to show you that growth is not linear. You don't need to expect that you're going to gain 1 extra client per month and that it has to be like that. Once you have the systems in place, once you have a good proven offer, you can scale the shit out of your business as long as you can make sure that you can fulfill on it. I didn't speak too much about the fulfillment issues we had, but you can just do the math. I just had to do a lot of hiring and make sure that everything was fulfilled on, had to add another editor or 2 to make sure that we could handle all the back end. That's what happened to it. I would argue that it's better to break your fulfillment mechanism and then have to adjust it and fix it rather than sit there and be super safe and conservative. Me personally, I didn't really know what I was doing. I'm going to be completely honest with you. This isn't a story of how I'm an expert business person. I was surprised as hell when all this was happening, to be honest. So I learned all of this trial by fire, basically. I hope you learned something from this story and I hope you apply it to your consulting business. Now, as always, if you want my help multiplying your marketing and building a system to nurture your leads organically so you can actually start converting all this new traffic that you're getting into sales and build your own traffic source so you don't have to rent from Facebook every single month, then go ahead and book a call with me. We can talk about implementing this system in your business where we're going to clarify your content pillars, clarify your messaging and exactly who you're speaking to make everything so much easier, both front and back end, and then building you a professional setup so that way you can record high quality videos whenever you want in 1 or 2 short sessions a month to get everything that you need. And last but not least, sourcing, training, and placing a pre-vetted media operator directly into your business. That way they can handle all of the video editing and the social media management side of things. Again, so you can focus on growing your business. So feel free to book a call. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments. I'll see you in my next video.